Hello everybody, welcome to Elden Ring. In this video we are going to talk about the best starting class for Elden Ring. Now, for most people, in my opinion, especially if you are new to the game, the Vagabond is more often than not going to be the person that you want to start with. This is because the Vagabond has the least combined stats for Intelligence, Faith, and Arcane, which is what makes this starting build so flexible. Now, allow me to explain myself here, because I'm sure there's somebody out there going, well, what if I'm a Faith or Intelligence build or anything like this? And you are correct. If you already have a specific character archetype in mind, and I'm going to bring you guys to the Mugen Monkey starting class optimizer here. I'll leave a link in the description. This whoever's made this has created a really nice work of art. So in the case of, let's say we're doing an intelligence build here, and you guys will see that this character has vastly more intelligence than any other stat. And bear in mind that I'm not going to be paying attention particularly to level caps here, but we are going to try to make whichever character that we come out with a build. What this means is, it means we don't have 80 in everything, because that would be crazy. In fact, having 80 in everything would probably mean that the Wretch may well end up being the same, but obviously at this point you can see that the level requirement would obviously be the same for all of them, so that would be too crazy. Level 150 to 200 is where things are most comfortable in my opinion, somewhere between those two numbers, and it depends on what weapons you're using, who you're playing with, and what your intentions within the game are. But enough of that, let me explain myself why I think the Astrologer is in general going to be the best pick for your first character, even if you want to be a caster build. Now, first up, because this character has such low starting numbers in the magical stats, right, which are the lower three stats, it means that you'll already have most of your melee weapon requirements met. So, for example, on this caster build here, we have 12 strength and 18 dexterity, which is important for one of the stronger mage weapons, which is the Moonveil. There are others we could target. There is the Royal Knight's Sword, I believe it's called, which actually has 26 strength requirement. And you can see things like the Prisoner and the Vagabond here are staying up top, which actually means unless you are not going to use a melee weapon at all, the Astrologer comes in under the Prisoner as best for starting a mage, for example. And the same will be had for a Faith build. In fact, the Vagabond even comes above the Prophet here, which is kind of crazy. So the reason I'm saying the Vagabond in general is going to be good is because he is the best generalist. Now, of course, if you're definitely going to play, let's say you're going to play a Prophet, you're definitely playing a Faith build, you're not going to use any weapons that you can't start out with this 11 and 10 strength and dexterity, and you're going to refuse to wear any heavy armor, maybe, you know, this will be fine for you, and you can start with the Prophet. But if you only want to run through the game once, and maybe you want to be able to respec into other characters, then the Vagabond is the best start for this. So if you are the kind of person that, you know, wants to play loads of different styles, and you want to be able to respec into different characters, because you can copy your save file and then reuse the respec items on the single character, then the Vagabond is the all-rounder. And it is, because of the stats that the Vagabond starts out with, simply going to allow you to play around with more weapons at the beginning of the game. So hopefully that kind of helps you guys out and answers at least who I think the best starting class in the game is. Now we can move on to keepsakes. Ultimately, I don't know whether or not I'll put this in the title, because I don't actually think any of them are good. Well, it's not so game-breakingly good that there's an easy one for me to pick for you. I think there are some bad ones that maybe you would avoid. Although, like, so let's talk about this. So Crimson Amber is going to give you HP. That's going to take up your only talisman slot at the beginning of the game. But this is also attainable really early. This is a few free runes that's going to allow you to level up maybe once or twice. But again, you're really doing that early. By the time you get to the end of the game, it's going to have made zero difference. The Golden Seed then allows you to get an extra healing flask early. But the cap for flasks is at 14. And when I got to the end of the game, I had, I think it was like 8 or 9 spare seeds, because you can't use them once you get to 14, and that is in one playthrough. So this will maybe get you an extra flask early, but you can get so many seeds before you face the first boss. If you just look at like a little guide of how many seeds you can get. In fact, I'm probably going to do one after this video. Also, almost completely unnecessary. Fanged Imp Ashes, not bad, but you're not going to be able to use them straight away. You're going to have to get the Summoning Bell. And when you get the Summoning Bell, you're going to get a better summon, which is the Wolves, and it really doesn't take long to get the Jellyfish after that, or something like Lootle, so you can have a special summon that's really going to carry you through quite a few boss fights. The only real use is if you don't want to go and find this one to unlock a specific tower later in the game. It could maybe save you some time then. But other than that, not particularly amazing. Cracked Pots then. This is going to give you 3 Cracked Pots, which are a craftable, reusable crafting material. Basically, you stuff stuff in them and throw them, and then you'll get the pots back. So they're kind of like a reusable consumable item. Kind of a strange idea, actually, and I quite like them. However, the 3 that it gives you, it actually takes out of the game. So, as according to the wiki, because I didn't know exactly where these were from, the Arita Side Tomb and one of the Nomads in Caelid won't have pots in that you would have been able to collect anyway. You can have 20 per game per character. Once you've collected so many, they won't be there again. So, again, this is kind of akin to the Golden Seed, where you're simply getting the cracked pots early. Now, this is handy because when you start a new game, I think there's 21 available to collect, and this will make it so that you have them earlier than that. But if you just look them up, or even follow the walkthrough that I've got on this channel already, you'll have all 20 cracked pots, so no real gain by the time you've gotten to the end of the game there. Stone Sword Key is probably even less good than the Golden Seed, in my opinion. These open like special doors that can only be opened by Stone Sword Keys. Now, most of the doors have one that's not that far away from them, and they are easily purchasable through merchants. Now, there can be a few thousand runes, which sounds like a lot at the beginning of the game, but trust me, like by the time you get to the back end of the game, that's just simply not a problem. And although a few of them do have some nice areas in and some hidden parts, this just really is not essentially enough for me to say you definitely want this item over the rest of them. The closest, in my opinion, is probably the Golden Seed, because if you're not going to Sequence Break, if you're not going to look around for where all of the other Golden Seeds are, having an extra heal before the first main boss could be useful. But I just don't think that's necessary. The Bewitching Branches then, I don't know why it says 1 branch, you actually get 5. Consumable item that allows you to turn mob enemies against themselves. Fun to be sure, but again, it's 5 consumable items that you'll never get back. So, also not, in my opinion, a particularly good pick. Boiled Prawn, these are purchasable for, I think it's 1,000 runes in the game. And not that far from the beginning if you know where to go for them. So, almost the same value as probably as the Stone Sword Key in terms of runes. Just as easily as attainable probably, and not really all that useful. So it's going to reduce some physical damage that you take. It's not a bad consumable to be sure, and it probably will make you feel nice and tanky early in the game. But you only get 5, and then you're going to have to go buy more anyway. And then we have Shibiri's Woe. So this is a fun item and is probably aimed at people rerunning the game. This basically attracts the attention of more enemies and makes it so they're more aggressive towards you. So really not all that ideal to pick in my opinion, especially if you're going early on. I mean, picking this and the Wretch would probably be quite hilarious as a playthrough. but overall just not that useful. So if I was to rank them, or maybe pick a top 3 out of these, it'll probably be the Golden Seed if you're not going to run around for extras, but then it becomes completely redundant after that. The cracked parts, if you fancy throwing them around, the damage of these does in fact scale with your like stats. So if you're throwing certain stuff, your strength and dexterity will come into play with this and make it more useful as you go forward. And there's also items that improve the damage of this. The Stone Sword key at a push, maybe. If the first dungeon that you can use this in, which is straight after the tutorial, had something better in that was more attainable, like as an early build, I would probably change my mind. But the earliest item, which is the turtle talisman, and I'm sorry I'm not going to be showing it on screen, but there's a talisman you can get quite early that increases your stamina regeneration. But there is a key literally down the road from it, so you just don't need it. You don't need it. So realistically speaking, those are probably the 3. I generally think maybe the Lands Between rune is a nicer boost. Like if that gives you 2 extra levels, which you can put into endurance, it's just going to make the game a little bit nicer for you, or even a bit of vigor. But again, that's going to become redundant by the end of the first area. So on my next run through the game, I'm probably going to pick none, just to see whether or not it even affects me. So, unless you have a specific build in mind, as a summary, Vagabond is the best all-round class. It is the most flexible, and you can turn it into any build that you want. More so than the Wretch, because the Wretch has more wasted stats. Because it has 13 Intelligence, Faith, and Arcane, as opposed to the 25 that this guy has. Because you're probably going to need the Strength and Dex anyway, and you're definitely going to want the Vigor, because Vigor must hit 60 if you want to be reasonably healthy in this game. And that's really all I'm going to have to say on this. Hopefully this helps you guys decide who you want to start out as when you play Elden Ring. And I'll see you all in the next video.